Justice. My brother is here. He's the Chief Justice who passed away, the first Indian part of the South African Constitution. So we're doing it in honor of him. And his brother is going to be our guest of honor. We must get you a program. We have one. Yes. Yeah. And then Mohammed Khashoggi, you know him?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, very.
Allah's blessings.
Allah's blessing. Yasmin, I'm going to be. I think you need to.
Okay. I've met them.
Are you migrating now to
There's a son.
Give us an umbrella.
Anyone want some drinks?
Any get some cool drinks for us. Roshan, Roshan, so nice to see you looking well. You know? Really nice. So great.
But you told me, sir, put all my
Every
makeup
night I used to just say, make sure this man is going to be pulled through, not only now, for always. So you look well. Please come in, you can have a quick walk through the Fatima and you think please grab some cold drinks.
Start filling drinks and then start serving.
Eat your bags.
Good. Good to see you.
Sorry. How you doing? Good.
Sorry, Ali.
Only for you. That's
Usually you tell, you ask me about Mukhan. Today you are asking me what do you think about
What happened? He's driving this.
I think so. I hope he has a driving license from Tanzania.
That's the problem.
Community, council. Oh, okay. Give it to Naila. She's collecting cards. Thank you. Thank you.
Good. There's our friend.
Water, juice, Coke. I thought I left you at the nursery school, my friend. Arun, how are you? Salam alaikum. Always a pleasure.
Excellent. You're looking well. Are you
You're
well?
looking well too. Always a joy. Don't
So I hope you get more of your books here.
I'm going to bring them here.
When are you going to do that? I'll be dead by then.
No, they're going to bring them. Let's see how much they can. The note always keeps me informed. Dolph is more than an elder brother of yours. Imagine. Arun was at the nursery school. Arun, Qasim Osman Ali's son, became a doctor. Satar Motani.
I don't remember him actually.
He was not doing well. I sometimes pass through. Harun is Ibrahim. Nice to meet you.
How are you?
So,
It's nice. What are you doing?
yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's already over a year. Have you met someone?
No. How are you?
He tells me every time, he says, Harun, there's nobody that doesn't know Harun. Harun doesn't come from. It's wonderful. It's so nice. It's good. Thanks for being here.
No, thanks for inviting me.
No. 2 in the morning we do emails, we do phones.
That's good.
Who are you talking about? Which page? Page.
The balance, I said, you know what, they can do no me.
This speaks of your always, just about everything. Thank you. Please.
Salam, how are you?
Assalamu alaikum. How are you? My your cousin and you are what to say, but as I said that, you know, these are moments we never come to anybody else. Allah's grace to us. So wonderful to see you. Zora is the person. Naila is in charge of outreach. Thank you. No.
My father told me the story. Have you?
You're Mr. Gargan, man. Fine, how are you? Senior most. She's accommodated in the front page. No, I'm not going to. He was our chairman. He won't argue. He was our chairman for so many years.
I'd like you to see this.
Please.
You and your wife.
Yeah, that's right. Main table पर जीवन में है. Sure. मैंने कि तुम्हारे कॉम में मुझे जीवन में बराबर कितना पिछले भी जो आज को.
Oh, finally!
We have picked up one.
My card.
He's very good.
That's teacher, right? Yeah. But there was another. Why not?
Hello, I'm Yasmin.
We've been communicating all the time for months on the email.
Come with me. I want to. Hello, Ismaili. Okay, so okay, nice to see you.
It's a crazy person. That's a Friday was the biggest. Taking yourself. I just wanted to talk to me. I said you 2 days.
Hey, how are you? How are you, man? Okay, how are you?
Yes, of course, always.
You know that happens. We have 2 days.
My entire photo reel is for women.
Okay, now you can join.
No, now you get it.
Later, he opened his own textile distribution enterprise. A man of great civic consciousness and a self-made man, he has served on the board of a local child welfare organization as well as a local cricket organization. A keen sportsman and respected member of the Muslim community, he has represented Northern Transvaal at various tournaments on cricket and tennis. Thank you, Mr. Mohammed, for joining us here today. It is my pleasure. It is my pleasure to now introduce you to Chairperson Yasmin Karmali of the Aga Khan Shia Imami Ismaili National Council. Yasmin Karmali was born in Mombasa, Kenya, where she went to school from nursery to secondary, all at the Aga Khan schools. Following her high school, she went to Canada, where she did a degree in computer science. She then went to the USA and did a master's degree in systems analysis and design at Columbus, Ohio. Following this, she moved to England, where she worked in the banking industry, specializing in IT and banking. In 1995, she moved back to Kenya and joined the Diamond Trust Bank of Kenya, part of the Aga Khan Fund for Economic Development, which is a component of the Aga Khan Development Network, one of the largest non-for-profit development networks in the world. In 2002, Yasmin came to South Africa. She heads the Ismaili community of South Africa and is responsible for its social governance in the country. I call on Yasmin to address us. Thank you. Yeah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. On behalf of the Committee for South Africa, the Ismaili leadership, and the members of the Ismaili community, we would like to welcome you all here today. Distinguished guests, community leaders, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. At the outset, I would like to thank Mr. Anwar Muhammad for having so graciously accepted to be the guest of honor at this event. I would also like to thank Dr. Muhammad Kasherji and his wife, Dr. Amina Jindani, for flying especially from the United Kingdom to be with us today. The heavens are opening. Needless to say, I am deeply grateful to you all for being here with us. Many of you have come from communities that have played an important role in civil society in the past and are continuing to do so today. Some of you represent families that have been set up institutions that have served humanity for decades. Your presence here today constitutes the hope for what we wish to do in the future. Through the launch of this community outreach project, we are celebrating the Diamond Jubilee of the Imamate of His Highness, the Aga Khan, who ascended the office of the Ismaili Imamate in July 1957. For over the last 60 years, His Highness has worked tirelessly for the betterment of humanity, having set up a large number of institutions and programs in the fields of education, healthcare, cultural development, and economic enhancement in a multitude of countries, whose benefits are available to all. A wonderful way of getting people to meet and enhance their educational aspirations. There are CDs in the center with good audio-visual facilities through which children can be initiated to appreciate good music as well. Then there is the possibility of greater cultural understanding, which can be forged through lectures, viewing of films on specific educational issues, cultural encounters, and so forth. The possibilities are plentiful, but it would require careful planning. As mentioned, our facility is small, but it is underpinned by the global connections that we have and which are accessible to us. Sustainability therefore becomes an important factor. We would like to avoid endeavors that are merely one-off. We would like sustained endeavors in the fields of education, healthcare, cultural understanding, and more particularly on enhancing the habit of reading in our children and our youth. We would welcome the idea of lectures and films on primary healthcare, maternal and childcare, and protecting children and vulnerable groups against substance abuse. Sustainability in our case would mean small but well thought through programs run on a professional and consistent basis by our volunteers from sister communities, working closely with the volunteers from the Ismaili community, who have had decades of voluntary experience both overseas and in South Africa. There are many things we can do together. We will just need to plan carefully, taking into consideration the fact that the center, which has been totally funded through voluntary donations, will be run exclusively by volunteers, and we have to be aware of their other time commitments. In order to give this aspiration a practical shape, we have here today Mrs. Naila Devji, our member for outreach in my committee, who will be very happy to take down the name, of a link person from your respective communities with whom we can plan future programs. Please do not leave today without sharing your contact with Naila. Lastly, I would be remiss not to thank the many donors and well-wishers of the Ismaili community in South Africa and elsewhere who have given unconditionally of their time, energy, skills, and material support. Without them, this vision would not have been possible. Coupled with the excellent team of volunteers from the Ismaili community here in South Africa, they have made this dream become a reality. No doubt we will be counting on their continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, your presence here today bears eloquent testimony to your association with the Ismaili community of South Africa, whose roots in this country go back to over a century. Its present members today include people from a number of countries, such as Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, the Democratic Republic of the Congo in Africa, from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh in Asia, and Canada and the USA in North America, as well as the UK, France, and Portugal in Europe. The community is made up of professionals and entrepreneurs, homemakers, students, and seniors. But one thing that binds us all together is our deep and abiding commitment to promote the ethic of pluralism by working together with others in civil society to improve the quality of human life and the environment where Ismailis live today. This commitment we make is for the betterment of a common humanity. And it is in the name of this common humanity that I urge you all, leaders and individuals from many communities represented here today, to come forward and accept our offer to work together. Let us build bridges of alliances to help improve the quality of human life in our South Africa. Let us celebrate each other's festivals with joy and love in our hearts. Let us work together to ensure that our children are able to access good institutions of higher learning both in South Africa and elsewhere, so that their education can be of value not just to themselves but to the societies of which they will become part of in this globalized world. Let us celebrate each other's uniqueness and understand how it can contribute to the betterment of our commonness and our aspiration to make the world a better place than what we found it. Above all, let us build bridges of understanding and dissipate the psychological walls so that we can build anew. I call on you all to help make this knowledge center an intellectual watering hole, enabling those who imbibe in it to go forth in the universe, in the search of knowledge in a world where knowledge is going to be the main driver of human salvation. Thank you.
Born in South Africa and went to school at the Aga Khan Nursery School in the Asiatic Bazaar in Pretoria, and then to the Pretoria Indian Boys Junior and High Schools. In 1962, he went to Kenya and studied at the Aga Khan High School in Nairobi. Following this, he went to Britain and was called to the bar at Gray's Inn. He practiced law in Kenya for a few years, and in 1972 went to Canada, where he went back to university, obtaining his LLB degree at Queen's University. After practicing law in Toronto for 3 years, he was called to France to join the Secretariat of His Highness the Aga Khan, where he worked for 31 years. First as an information officer in the newly established Department of Information, then in the Department of Community Affairs, and finally as a coordinator for international training programs. In 1998, he went back to university and did his LLM in the International Protection of Human Rights, Islamic Law, and Alternative Dispute Resolution. In 2000, he started his PhD program at London University, and in 2009 obtained his doctorate in conflict resolution. For 10 years, he coordinated training programs in mediation in over 20 countries in Asia, Africa, Europe, and North America. For his work in this field, he was awarded the prestigious Gandhi King Ikeda Peace Award for Peace and Human Rights Education in 2016. Earlier awardees include President Nelson Mandela, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Ambassador Andrew Young, Rosa Parks, and Mikhail Gorbachev.
To mark the 60th anniversary of the Imamate of His Highness the Aga Khan, I'm also deeply grateful to Mr. Anwar Mohammed for accepting to be the guest of honor at this ceremony, which is a community outreach project. The ceremony is dedicated to the memory of the late Ismaili Mohammed, Chief Justice of South Africa from 1996 to 2000. No one can deny the seminal role that Ismaili Mohammed played in the restoration of the confidence of the people of South Africa in its judiciary as an important pillar of the rule of law in the new South Africa. About 2.5 years ago, I was in South Africa for the launch of my book, Into the Heaven of Freedom, the foreword to which was written by the late Mr. Ahmed Kafrada, who very graciously attended the launch. 2 days prior to that, I shared a platform with him at the Ster Kennikor Cinema in Killarney to celebrate the launch of another book, this time on Mahatma Gandhi, written by Fakir Hassan, a respected journalist and a good friend of mine. On the stage was a lady representing a national library who mentioned that in the apartheid era many books were banned and consequently the people of South Africa were deprived of the rich and variegated histories of its various peoples. As soon as I left the stage and rejoined my wife Amina, she asked, "Did you listen to the speech of that woman and did you grasp what she said?" Then looking at me with deep concern in her eyes, she asked rhetorically, "Don't you think your books should come to South Africa? They belong here." That night I reflected over this suggestion, and in the morning when I met Fakir Hassan for breakfast, I asked him what he thought of the idea. Fakir was supportive, but cautioned me that it would need both the physical space as well as the appropriate and committed human resources to make it work. The same day we were entertained to dinner by Yasmin Karmali, who out of the blue mentioned to me about her dream of setting up a knowledge center in Rivonia for the people of all faiths, creeds and color, who could work together to share their knowledge and to make a contribution to society. I jumped at the opportunity that was staring me in the face and mentioned to Yasmin that I had a library that was started over 75 years ago and that I was looking for a home for it. "Send it to us," she said. "We could do with it." "Do you have the space to house it?" I asked. "We will make the space," she said. "This is our dream," she emphasized. That Sunday, we were at Hasmukh Jivan's home for lunch, which was attended by Justice L.B. Sachs, and I announced to the guests that our family library was coming to South Africa because I genuinely believed that it belonged here. L.B. Sachs welcomed this offer with great alacrity and gave it his wholehearted support. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems to me that the stars were beautifully arranged in a lucky constellation that weekend for this dream to come true. For today, 2.5 years later, the books, some 3,000 in all, are all already here in this newly refurbished center with the sign Knowledge Center prominently displayed on it.
Once again, without you, we would not be getting together to decide to honor the histories and the people who fought so strongly for the South Africa that we see today. But why do we always revere knowledge centers, libraries, books, repositories? Why do we care? And it comes down to the human thirst for knowledge. Our ancestors roamed this earth, no abode but what they found for the night. Sometimes when they were stumbling, they found water resources and had the luxury of pausing and contemplating their surroundings. Then circumstances would again chase them, and it was dictated that they move on. In these wanderings, as they paused for those few moments, they looked up at the night sky and pondered the stars. They followed the patterns of the moon and the sun and navigated uncharted territories through these observations. They learned to read the weather and look for shelter when rain was near. I see we've planned well. All around them, the systems of nature caused them to observe and to analyze, to understand and to exploit knowledge to ensure survival. In learning, they became masters of their environments, able to understand and therefore exploit the resources around them, and in doing so, took control of their destinies. But the absorbing of knowledge is not one-directional. As we gain knowledge, there's almost an overwhelming need to impart that knowledge. It is simultaneously and symbiotically a relationship of teaching and sharing. The proper position is both elegant and seductive in itself, to become both the master but also an eternal student. The exchange of knowledge both empowers and is empowering, and with that comes great responsibility. As this need to impart knowledge becomes manifest, knowledge was passed orally from generation to generation.